Alright, I'm gonna try and teach you the user interface of Blender. It can look a little tricky, you have all these options everywhere, but this is where you're gonna usually see when you start up. This is your 3D viewport. On each side are properties panels and options. This side is mostly for things you can use to manipulate the model, although there is a better section for that. If you go into this bottom section, it's on most Windows. There is right next to whatever mode you're in. If you go into edit mode, if you remember for the last one, you can see the faces of this cube. You can manipulate each section in this menu. This is a menu of all the options you can use to manipulate the object. So you can manipulate, these are all the options for manipulating the vertices or manipulating the edges. Like if you want to bevel an edge, if we go into edge modes or edge select mode, we can grab an edge and then come in here, go to edge mode and bevel, and we'll bevel the edge. It's basically where all your modes are. But there's more things, or there's other parts of modeling. You need to UV unwrap an object. That is taking a 3D object and turning it into a 3D or a 2D representation, which the texture will be overlaid, and then that information will be taken from the 2D image and wrapped over your 3D model. So in order to do that, you're going to need a different type of window. And if you see at the corner here, at the bottom of this window, these are the different window types. The main types you're going to use for 3D modeling is the 3D view window and the UV/image editor window. Also, if you get into rendering in Blender, the node editors helps out a lot. That's for configuring materials, making it look exactly the way you want. But for 3D games, that's not necessary. But in order to create a new window or get rid of a window, if you look at the corners of each of the window here, there are little slash marks. You drag with this, so you can drag down to create a window. Now we have two 3D viewports, which is actually helpful if you want to do a rendered view. So you'll see what it looks like rendered while you're working. Or you can change the window type itself to be the UV/image editor. If you want to get rid of a window, you drag back over it. You'll see this arrow, and you'll get rid of it. And also, you can drag in other directions too. You can have many different windows if you'd want. However, it works for you. All right. On the on the right hand side here, these are your main properties for most things. But pretty much everything about your scene itself, your options and properties are going to be in here. This is the render section. You have all your options for rendering, amount of samples. It's a little technical, but this is all your rendering options. Is your rendering layers, another part of the rendering options. You have your scene options. You can change your units, your measurement units for your object. There's a lot of things in here. You'll mostly use the modifiers tab. That's very helpful. The modifiers section, you can use modifiers to manipulate your entire object in different ways. Like, you can use subdivision surface. That'll create multiple edges and smooth them out. That can be really helpful for um, creating a high poly model. High poly meaning there's lots of edges, and faces, and vertices in there to make a really smooth shape. So if we drop that on there, you can see that it completely manipulates the entire object. Well, completely modifies the entire object. It's just one of many modifiers. A lot of useful things you just really have to play around with. Array is another fun one. You can make multiple copies. There's also the Materials tab. It's helpful for rendering or visualizing what your object will look like with textures and all kinds of different shading options. That's basically the user interface. Uh, Anywheres where there's a little corner, you can drag off for a new window, or you can drag back over it to get rid of it. And you can, if there's options in here that you use, you can grab one of these and move it, create your own style.